Have you ever had a dream that you thought was real? What if you didn't wake up from that sleep? How would you know it wasn't real? It's a pretty simple question, isn't it? That's a nice question taken from Matrix philosophy. According to Matrix philosophy, we are all living inside a simulation. We only see the parts that are shown to us, the ones we look at, taste, touch, or wherever we turn our eyes, and we only feel the things we interact with. So in this way, we actually think that we are really living inside a simulation. In the end, the Matrix is just trying to make us feel like everything is real. In this simulation, everything seems real to us. Are we discussing the Matrix? No, we are not. But that's exactly what games are trying to do for us as well. To trick our brains. Now imagine a game, it has a massive map and we think we're inside the game, living in a city in that reality. Or you're in a game set in the Middle Ages. You actually feel like you've gone back to that era, dealing with the realities of that time. The NPCs wandering about are just like us. Thanks for watching. They are programs placed and coded there to draw you into the atmosphere. However, NPCs in games are not very advanced. I mean, it depends on the quality of the game's production. That's how we realize we're in a game. But hold on, we can also encounter these NPCs in real life.
Sterlinus, is there any expensiveness? There's a little, just a bit. Yes, it will increase even more. Why will it increase? Who's responsible? I can't say. I don't know that either. Well, what do you know? I don't know much.
Actually, this non-player character system isn't used in every game. But usually, almost all of the open world games we play have this. Just like in the Matrix. Usually, in open world games, only the places we look at, see, or turn our heads toward are coded. So, the places we don't look at actually don't exist. In fact, there's a game that uses this best, Grand Theft Auto. When traveling around the Grand Theft Auto map, you may have noticed something interesting. Actually, on the map that we see as a living city, when we turn our head to one area, the events we see change immediately when we turn our head somewhere else. So as long as you're looking there, events keep happening. But when you move away a little, that part completely disappears. When you return to the same place, you no longer see the same thing. You see something else that's been re-encoded. As a result, the map you think is huge is actually shaped within maybe just 218 yards of your field of view. The other parts of the map or the city actually don't exist unless you go there. Of course, it's possible to understand this. So, if a game like Grand Theft Auto was the opposite, if they modeled the entire map, you might have to run it on National Aeronautics and Space Administration computers or something. So, in the end, games try to make us feel like we're living in much bigger cities, or in the endless countryside or villages of the Middle Ages by tricking us this way. Actually, we can only see just a little bit beyond where we are. And as we move forward, new places start to be modeled and opened up in front of us. We only have a small area, and outside of that area, it actually doesn't exist unless we go there. There's another game that uses this technique. Minecraft. In fact, there's even a setting for this in Minecraft, chunk and simulation distance. When you increase these chunk settings, you're actually expanding that small circle you're in a bit more. If you increase the simulation distance level, the logical behavior of the world around you can be extended by as many levels as you set, even if they're farther away. So we can call it the level of deception. Still, within that massive area with billions of blocks, you're actually not present in real time. As you move forward, new areas open up and the regions behind you are deleted according to your game settings. In the real world, our brain actually works exactly like this. Now think about it, to Brazil, to America, or to the Middle East. Well, let's not go that far. Unless you go to the next street up from your neighborhood, that place doesn't really exist for you. Let's narrow it down even more. You're at your workplace, at your school, in your office, or in a room in your house. When you don't leave the room, you don't know what's happening in the other rooms. You can only make guesses by thinking about the last images that were coded into your brain because you've seen those places before. I realize that you're a bit confused. In fact, even while watching this video, my reality is the camera I'm looking at right now. So right now, you can see behind me, but I can't see it. That's why my reality is the direction I'm looking at right now, but if I turn my head and look behind me, my reality shifts directly from here to there. So we only perceive the places we look at, but of course I know what's behind me because my brain had already recorded that area in its memory before. So you only actually interact with the reality of a place when you go there or when you turn your head toward it. In real life, just like in games, you actually live within the area you can see. So your reality is exactly the inside of an area like this. The areas you can't see actually don't matter to you at all. So, as I just said, your brain works exactly like this. Games also try to trick us by virtually pulling us into that reality in this way. So the better a game can trick your brain, the more successful that game is. Not all games use this technique though. In some games, our space is so narrow and small that we already know we're in a small area. That's what we think. Actually, we're fooling ourselves here. I mean, typically because our brain's perception of reality works this way. Even when we're working in a small restaurant in the game, we imagine a big world outside. Our customers are coming to our shop from a busy street or from a large area in a vast world, right? Why do we think this way? Actually, there's nothing there, because the answer is simple. Our brain has a tendency to fill in the missing parts, places, and facts. Just like trying to put meaningless shapes into order. Who hasn't looked at clouds and seen a human face or an animal? In fact, there's even a scientific name for this. Pareidolia. Let's approach the topic differently. Why do we lose interest in games? So, why don't games give us pleasure when we lose that sense of reality? Why do we get so frustrated when we see a game full of bugs? Because when we see a bug in a game, we are logically affected by it. And because these bugs break the game's sense of logic, when the reality that the game promised you is shattered, you can't really feel like you're inside that world anymore. This starts to get on our nerves and we begin to think that the game is a bad game. What did I say? Games are only as successful as they can deceive us. I'll also talk about the sense of empathy in games. So, it's a situation that's often used in games. I mean, we all have a game character we admire, right? Sometimes Geralt, sometimes
Master Chef, sometimes.
Kratos, and sometimes Polat Alemdar. We embrace the characters in games so much, we identify with them so deeply that we place them as a reality in our minds. In fact, when we watch television series, we immediately try to establish a connection between ourselves and the main character, don't we? However, if it's a series adapted from a game, then we directly look at how much the main character resembles the main character in the game, how well they reflect that feeling from the game to us, and how well the world of the game is conveyed to us. If the main character in the series doesn't resemble the character in the game in terms of stance or personality, we immediately lose interest. And we start criticizing the series. Sometimes we can even empathize with the creatures in the games. For example, what would happen if I killed that calf in Minecraft with my sword? You would act out of a direct instinct to protect and feel pity, right? Do you know why? Because we adopt the reality within that world. Actually, nothing is real in the game world. What you see here is just a virtual illusion created by the combination of codes running in the background. As a result, we actually play games for this reason, to do things we can't do in real life. In real life, you'll never be able to roam freely around the city and cause chaos like in a Grand Theft Auto game. You may never become a pilot or travel to the Middle Ages to be a wizard. These things are impossible. But games can give us these things. We feel completely free. We do everything we can't do in real life. Actually, we let games deceive us, and we really enjoy it. These games exist for us to experience a sense of limitlessness, and the quality of a game depends on how well it can deceive you.